The name I mentioned in this whole talk that we haven't heard anything from is Jorge Masvidal, and I am so surprised that we haven't heard any news about him. I mean, it's been really weird since losing the title since he lost that title fight to Usman. Masvidal's kind of had a weird run, going forward. And I don't want to get political here, but obviously, he's a very big Trump supporter, and I know a lot of people sort of turned on him for that. And his manager also was probably tweeting from his account, and that's not helping matters either. But I mean, it seemed like the obvious fight was him and Colby, but I mean, I don't think the longer this goes, I don't think that fight happens. Masvidal had this huge, 2019 where he was the guy. I mean, everyone was talking about Masvidal, the whole fight with Nate Diaz, everything, the build up to it was huge. And I feel like a lot of that is gone because we've barely heard from him. He's not doing much media. This Colby fight's not happening. By the way, I reached out to Colby this week. Normally, Colby's very good about getting back to me. He's kind of giving me the silent treatment, which means one of two things. I have two theories on this. Number one, he doesn't want to do media, which is, could happen. He did that before the Woodley fight, did very limited media. Number two is, maybe they do have him booked against Masvidal. Maybe they're filming Tough soon, and maybe he doesn't want to say anything about that. That's my only thing. But with Masvidal, like, what's your take on this? Because I think he's kind of getting cold at this point.
Yeah, man. People have to understand what momentum means. Momentum is very important in this game, and it's what you do with the momentum, right? Again, let me paint this picture for you so you can understand, and people don't look at it like this because they don't see the bigger picture, but I'm in the business. I'm in business. So I know what I'm looking at, and I know what's happening. He starts off his 2018, end of 2019. He starts it off with the whole press thing that comes out with Jorge versus Nick. Mm-hmm. That went around. I watched that guy's Instagram grow by like 50, 60,000 in that week, when that went out. And we didn't even sign a contract to fight. We were in negotiation stage, and these guys, UFC pushed it out there and said, hey, I'm like, whoa. We didn't even agree yet. The money don't make sense. The rounds don't make sense. Let's get this shit right. You know what I mean? And they jumped the gun on it, and then that killed the whole thing, right? But that momentum he carried with him into the Till fight. It was Till, wasn't it? Who was first? No, it was Steven.
Yeah. So he fought. So for going back on the years. So let's do a little timeline here, and we'll see if we can kind of match up what you're saying here. So it was beginning of 20. It was the end of 2018. Masvidal had been off for a year. He filmed that reality show. Right. He went away, grew the long hair, all that stuff. Became Street Judas, whatever. Came back, fought Darren Till, knocked out Darren Till. That was huge because that was a fight I think he was an underdog in. Okay, so he finishes Till. Then he fights Ben Askren after that, gets the highlight reel, viral, KO of Askren, which was huge. He was on a big card too. That was another John Jones.
Hold on. Wasn't Stevens in there somewhere? Stephen Thompson's in there somewhere? Or am I tripping?
No, Stephen Thompson was before that. That was 2000. I think that was 2018 when he lost, and then he went away to do the reality show. So he was off for almost a year. I think the Masvidal fight with Thompson, it was either 2017 or it was early 2018. I'm going to look that up right now, but yeah, he sort of took some time off because there was a point when he lost to Wonderboy. It's like, okay, this guy's not going anywhere up in the weight class. So yeah, he lost to Thompson the end of 2017. So that was in November, and he fought Till in 2019. So he took all of 2018 off.
Yeah, so we started negotiation in November 2018 to fight him in March so we started late end of November, beginning of December. So once that fell through, they tried to make us fight in January. I was like, nah, we're not doing that. It's too close. And then we had to pick opponent. And honestly, he wasn't even on the list. And this is how these Diaz guys think. They watch, and then they see how you're doing, and then they see what kind of fighter you are. Like, okay, I'll fight that guy because that guy's a real fighter, right? Only real fighters are going to get a real chance to really fight, So, so he gets that momentum. He beats Till, carries that momentum from beating Till with a knockout, knocks out Askren. That's a lot of momentum. Now, after he beats Askren, Nate's like, okay, I'm going to fight that guy, right? Because he was already associated with us about a year ago. Now I'm going to fight this guy. After I beat Pettis, I'll fight this guy. So he calls him out after the fight, and then they fight each other. That momentum. So you're talking about a year straight of momentum this guy's carrying into his title fight, right?
Yeah.
Now you have pay-per-views being sold, right? With him and Nate, because the other two fights were pay-per-views, if I'm not mistaken. Askren wasn't a pay-per-view until he wasn't headlining it.
No, he wasn't headlining it. You're right, but it was a pay-per-view with Askren.
Those were pay-per-view fights, but those were pay-per-view cards, but he wasn't headlining the cards.
No, he wasn't. No.
Yeah. So his first headline card is with him and Nate, right? Yep. And all of these fights are happening all in 2019, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yep. No, they were. Nate, Askren, and Till were all 2019.
So look how much momentum that guy has. 3 fights in 1 year. And it's all really good name fights. And then he ends the year off with a big fight in New York, Madison Square Garden versus Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz. His fight gets stopped. He moves on to fight. And I'll tell you something else. You want to hear something else that's crazy?
Sure.
If Nate won that fight, that doctor never stopped that fight, and Nate won that fight, that BMF belt would have meant something right now.
Oh, I bet.
The reason why that belt doesn't mean anything is because of who has it. Same thing I keep telling you guys. That belt would have carried momentum, and then it would have turned into a whole different thing if that belt was around Nate's waist. But it went to Jorge, and then they just had to dead it because he doesn't have enough to carry that swag. You know what I'm saying? So you move forward to when he fights Usman, and he loses to Usman. Now all of the momentum dried up. Now, usually what happens when that happens is the guy that beats you takes all of your momentum and then propels himself higher. But that's not what happened in this case, because Usman beat him. But what does that really mean? You know, like you just beat another guy. Now it felt like you just beat another guy. And then also Jorge went into this whole thing about, you know, everything that he's been doing, trying to become a superstar. And I think it affected his stock. You know, all of it affected his stock. If he would have just remained thorough and not be a part of everything that's going on outside of this fight shit and try to get into politics and all this extra shit, he would have been able to sustain himself, you know. But it's hard to sustain yourself when you're wearing robes and, you know, sitting front row with robes with tequila bottles in your hand and then turning into fucking suits and Trump support at fucking rallies. I mean, these two don't add up. They don't mesh.
Yeah.
You see, they don't understand that. These people, fighters and people around them don't understand. People could see all of these things and they're taking all this information in, and it doesn't make sense, you know, and that's what happened. I feel like if he would just stay true to what he was and who he was, or whatever act he was doing before, because I don't know which one is real no more, then I think he would have been all right. That loss wouldn't have hurt him as much. But now that loss feels like it's hurt him. And now where do they stand? You think you're a superstar because you sold X amount of pay-per-views. So now you're trying to get more money to fight Cobley. And Cobley thinks he deserves more money to fight you because you guys think this is the biggest fight the UFC can make. So now you have two guys with huge egos who gotta try to make sense. And then you got the guy with the biggest ego, Dana, sitting across. So it's like you got a triangle of egos that are really big. And that's why this fight's not being made right now, honestly. I think it's the money and the egos, and then guys really thinking they're bigger than what they are. And they want more money for it. So you're gonna have this debt still for a while until somebody breaks in. One of them eventually just folds and takes that $500,000 that they're supposed to get paid to walk in, and then they go from there.
Yeah, we'll see. It's I completely agree with you about Masvidal. Something's got to give at some point because he's just killing his momentum right now.
You know what happened to Lynch? I forgot to tell you this too.
Yeah, let's hear it.
He signed a contract. He renewed his these guys, man. He renewed his contract. When did you renew his contract? Before the Nate fight? Before the Nate fight. So he's stuck in a contract with money that says what it says.
Yeah, instead of wanting more, and it's probably not what the contract says.
And those fights are 10. Those contracts are 10 fights, 7 fights, 10 fights. So now you beat Nate, or you get that win, and now you go into a title fight. Well, you're still gonna get paid the same amount. Nothing's gonna change. You see what I'm saying? And now you got this big fight coming up. Instead, if you just was able to, yeah. Okay. So a lot of breaking news.
Yeah. He signed a new contract. It was the head of the Usman fight, because if you remember, Usman was supposed to fight Gilbert Burns, tested positive for COVID. Then Masvidal came in at the last minute. It was kind of a good scenario for Jorge because he could always say, "Oh well, I lost because I fought on short notice." Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of good negotiating. Speaking.